I, Tulsi Gabbard, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
I take this obligation freely.
About to enter.
Discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I want to hear why, but do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick.
Tremendous fraud. There's tremendous fraud. And it's hard to believe that you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our Attorney General, there's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done he doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to kill our we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Well, yo, boy, we got a big one here, y'all. Tulsi just got confirmed. We got some more bombshell news. Look like Cash is next. And also, some big things are going to be taking place in just the next, I would say, 9 days. Woo! Yeah, God bless President Trump. Prayers for Trump in the comment section. The Trump administration is rocking and rolling. Elon Musk and DOGE. Oh, man. The corruption is being exposed. And Democrats, once again, are making a fool out of themselves, giving us a whole, just a great set to laugh at. I mean, just a comedy show. It's been a disgrace, and they ought to be walked out in handcuffs. You know. But let's jump into this, man. I definitely had to jump in this one. Let's check it out. See what my boy's talking about, man.
So breaking news, Tulsi Gabbard has been confirmed as the next Director of National Intelligence. A subcommittee on DOGE goes off the rails this morning, and Democrats suffer another loss, this time in court. We're going to get to these stories and more in this video, but let's start with the official announcement in regards to Tulsi Gabbard.
All right, we have breaking news now. We have been watching, monitoring while that hearing was going on DOGE. We will get right back to it. But for now, Tulsi Gabbard has enough votes to become the next Director of National Intelligence. This would be the 14th member confirmed of Trump's choices for the cabinet. 6 more to go. I understand that as the count.
I told
that
you, it looks like everybody's going to be confirmed, just to let you guys know.
We're working with.
So the final tally on her confirmation was 52 to 48, and the only Republican that voted no, which is no surprise.
No surprise.
Good old Mitch McConnell, which
Can we please walk him out, please? There has to be some term limit laws. I mean, this man's in a wheel. They ought to put the wheelchair. They ought to lock the back brakes. They should have locked the back brakes on that wheelchair. I'm just saying, I didn't even mean this. I'm so sorry, y'all. I shouldn't have said that. But I'm for real. They should have locked the back brakes on that wheelchair. The man's in a wheelchair, man. Rhino against the American, against the agenda, against the American First agenda. I need to walk that fella out, man, for real.
Say should have retired 20 years ago. Of course, I'm going to show you
20 years. Some people say 10. No, we say 20. 25. I might get even madder and say 30. The man's had a stroke live on air and failed. I don't know how many times he's fell down. People just falling down. Cracking their hips. And many of them ought to be walked out with their hands behind their back. Criminals. Inside trading. I mean, it's a disgrace. It's just a nursing home, man. You ask him a question, he barely can get it out. They ought to be ashamed of themselves, man, for real. There needs to be some limit law.
Show you some receipts here. Let's take a look at this clip. This is Mitch McConnell. He's in a wheelchair with a boot around his foot coming out of Capitol Hill. Let's look at that now.
This is ridiculous.
How are you feeling, Leader McConnell?
He not gonna answer. He probably don't even know what. They gotta lock the back brakes. For real.
So of course the
there
question
was no need for him to go out to even vote. They should have just locked the back brakes. He shouldn't even made a vote, man. They should have walked this man out a long time ago.
Is why would Mitch McConnell vote no? Now, I'm of the belief he represents a part of the Republican Party that no longer exists. And the new Republican Party, which I think was summed up very nicely in like 15 seconds here in this clip, is all about populism.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Republican Party has changed. We're no longer the party of Mitch McConnell and George W. Bush even. I think we are a more populist, working class party, and I think that it's seen throughout these votes and throughout the influence of Donald Trump.
So that's how MSDNC reacted to this breaking announcement about Tulsi Gabbard being confirmed. But of course, CNN has a different take, and I think you will not be surprised by what they had to say. They believe that Mitch McConnell, as the only Republican who voted no on Tulsi, he did it because he's the only person not afraid of President Trump.
Dan, I mean, I think the bottom line here too is and the concern and the big question going forward is going to be about the relationship that this administration is having with Russia, right? Edward Snowden is a big part of that. That was probably her toughest moment in the hearing. But that's what ties all of these questions together, right? And we're just learning, in fact, this just crossed here at CNN, that Trump says he and Putin had a productive phone call. Both leaders agreed to visit each other's nations, right? This, of course, this was posted on Truth Social. This comes in the wake of the release, the hostage exchange that we saw play out late last night. But the things that tie together all of the concerns that and underscore, I think, Mitch McConnell's concern about Tulsi Gabbard is her view on Russia and the way the United States should be relating to the Russians. And the fact that he was the only one that was willing to vote no on this just shows that he's the only one that's not afraid of Trump right now. Like, Susan Collins may have reasons, right, for saying, okay, she said this thing, I feel better. The real reason is, like, she's got a primary.
Right, and McConnell's already on the exit ramp. I just want.
Of course, he's on the exit ramp. He's about to retire. He's finished. He should have been
afraid
finished
of
20
Trump.
years ago. I hope if one thing happens during Trump's administration is they figure a way out to pass term limits.
Thank you. I don't know how many times I'm saying this. I don't know how many times. It is not just me saying it. Them page, Us with just common sense. I don't know how many times and how many comments and how many. We have been saying this for how long, y'all? Them Patriots say, Rick, we've been saying this for years. I almost said something I wasn't supposed to say. I ain't gonna say it.
Because I just think it's pitiful at this point. Now, this is the first of many losses just today for the Democratic Party. So Tulsi Gabbard is being confirmed. They also voted for RFK Jr. to go ahead and move forward with his Senate vote. And that's why Chuck Schumer this morning was on the Senate floor panicking, because he knew what was inevitable, that she was going to be confirmed. And I just want to show a clip just for pure entertainment. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Objectively,
This clown.
I think most senators would agree there are better choices to lead national intelligence. You know what my guess is? If we had a secret ballot, Gabbard might get 10 votes and 40 against her from the other side.
They ought to
People
walk this
know.
man out with handcuffs,
That's why
man.
they raise so many questions.
He ought to be walked out with handcuffs.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk evidently threatened them, and they're changing their view.
And now this takes us to the next loss for the Democratic Party. A federal judge just ruled that President Trump does in fact have constitutional authority to freeze or limit certain federal funding. This comes because, remember, he put freezes when it came to funding aid around the world because there was a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. And now the judge has confirmed he has the authority to do that.
And then that the previous order does not bar both the president and much of the federal government from exercising their own lawful authorities to withhold funding without the prior approval of the district court, meaning, again, they can disperse the monies that they were allocated within the law, within the confines of the law, and that the government does not have to seek preclearance from the courts on terminating funding as long as they have the authority to do it, as governed by the applicable statutory, regulatory, or grant terms. So essentially, the court is confirming what the Trump administration has maintained and what common sense can project, which is that within the confines of regulatory and normal authority, of course, you can do what you want with your own money, and you don't need a court's approval to do so.
Yeah, so that's obviously one of many lawsuits that was filed against the Trump administration. So that's a loss for the Democratic Party. And we're still waiting to hear about some of these executive orders as it pertains to shutting down certain agencies, reorganizing these agencies, laying off federal employees, requiring them to come back to work, the buyout. That all is still up in the air. However, this is not a good look for Democrats. So while this was all happening, there was a committee hearing in regards to DOGE this morning, and this involved on both sides of the aisle, individuals who are part of the actual DOGE committee. And so, of course, it went off the rails. Let's start with this deranged congressman from California when he opened his statement by talking about Elon Musk in this way.
Now, I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Green, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing. So I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. He has billions of dollars in conflicts of interest. And we know that he is leading a power grab, also abided by and encouraged by Donald Trump and, of course, the chairwoman, Congresswoman Green.
Okay, so it just shows you how immature and how they have zero credibility. They provide no substance to this debate whatsoever. Because
it's been a clown show. People, we've been having a good laugh with these clowns, man. And I feel somebody needs to be made an example out of. That's what I'm advocating for, that somebody is made an example out of. And we got to broadcast it. Get those handcuffs hot.
To personally attack the people that they don't like, instead of actually speaking the language of what American voters really want to hear. That's the huge mistake that they're continuing to make. Let me show you another example of how ridiculous they have become. Here is Congresswoman Stansbury, who starts to hyperventilate about DOGE's attempt to hack the Treasury payment system.
But because this is the Oversight Committee, let's do a little bit of oversight. For the last several weeks, I've been talking to Treasury and OMB officials to try to get to the bottom of why Elon Musk and his team are trying to hack the Treasury payment system, because this is a completely nonpartisan system that literally just pays the bills of the federal government. So why are they so eager to hack this system? And I have to say that over the last several weeks, we have literally received thousands of calls in every single congressional office. In fact, we know that our friends across the aisle are also receiving these calls because this system pays the bills of the U.S. government. It pays our soldiers. It pays for the work that we do overseas. It pays your Social Security benefits. It pays your tax refunds. So why is Elon Musk and his hackers trying to access that system?
Hackers.
Now, while they're so emotional in trying to debate this entire issue, I just want to provide some common sense, logical rebuttals to what she was saying. I'm going to show you the receipt. This was dated January 16th of 2025. Chinese hackers access Yellen's computer in US Treasury breach. So while they're melting down over Elon Musk and DOGE doing an audit, you didn't hear a peep from them when China hacked into our actual Treasury system. And this report goes on to say that US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, not Secretary Employee or Secretary of Treasury Assistant, no, the US Treasury Secretary was hacked, and unclassified files were accessed as part of a broader breach of the Treasury Department by Chinese state-sponsored hackers. The computers of two of Yellen's lieutenants, and the hack, which was labeled by Treasury then, was called a major incident. It also happened in December, when Chinese state-sponsored hackers breached the department's computer security guardrails by compromising third-party cybersecurity service provider. So that's a key piece of information the left always wants to leave out. And what they're also trying to do is now say that everything that Elon Musk and President Trump is saying is a lie because they have yet to provide any evidence that there has been fraud.
We begin tonight keeping them honest with the extraordinary claims of government fraud by the president and similar claims of maximal transparency by Elon Musk, but little evidence of either to back it up. In fact, strong evidence to the contrary from Musk's contention that he and his DOGE team are doing what they do in a way that, quote, maximally transparent. He said that in the Oval Office wearing a ball cap and T-shirt with one of his kids nearby. He and the president, who yielded the stage to him for minutes at a time, both speaking at length with reporters. The president, who's now facing a string of court cases surrounding his and Musk's actions, addressed concerns that he would defy court orders, saying he, quote, always abides by the courts.
So let me get this straight. First, the left-wing media and Democrats claim that there is no evidence of fraud, waste, and abuse. That's what he's pushing at this point. Secondly, that President Trump was going to defy the orders from the judge. Remember that? They were pushing that all last week. Yep. And now that he came out and said, no, we'll just appeal it, they have nothing to say. I mean, you cannot hate the media enough. I mean, they're just sick in the mind. And I don't even think they can help it. I mean, they would rather be wrong if it meant that they were disagreeing with Trump. I mean, that's what it is for them right now. It's almost a mental disease. Now, here is former Governor Sununu, who's on that same panel, and he makes Anderson Cooper snap because he gives them the brutal truth.
It was surreal, but I got to tell you, I know what you're not showing here. Musk gave 7 specific examples off the top of his head of where the corruption and fraud were. I know you didn't play the clips. He was talking about a contractor that had a 3-month contract. He was paid for 20 years. They don't ever play the clips. He was talking about welfare benefits that were being paid to someone that was technically 150 years old. He was talking about line items in the Treasury that had no justification.
There's no any actual, he doesn't present any actual evidence.
Well, he's standing there in the Oval Office. Do you expect him to come in with 10,000 pages? And I have to be clear, to complain about this administration about transparency, when this president takes open questions on a daily basis, yet Joe Biden didn't show up for a press conference this 6 months, is insane. Well, these guys are being extremely transparent. They don't have to sit there and take the questions, but they do. It's 23 days in here, guys. 23 days. You're talking about 2.3 billion that was saved last year. These guys are saving 2.3 billion a day.
Right, but
it's incredible.
That's what they're saying.
But where's the proof? You're waiting. You're not going to be satisfied till he shows up with 10,000 pages.
But we're talking about 10,000 pages.
Yeah.
He's giving very specific things,
yes, he's giving
but he's not actually giving any evidence of that.
It's all going to come because what they also said was, if we have to go to Congress, we'll go to Congress.
Right, but
we'll show where it is.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not.
Talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. That was.
Yeah.
FEMA money for migrants, that's okay now?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that?
You're a clown. You're a clown.
Don't be a dick. The portrayal, what I'm saying is the portrayal.
Yeah, of course, Anderson Cooper has no answer in regards to $59 million for migrants because remember, they said that wasn't happening, right? They claimed FEMA wouldn't do anything like that. They never diverted funds. That obviously has been proven to be a lie at this point. So that's number one. And secondly, with 23 days in, with the amount of money that they are saving, you'd think there'd be some level of neutrality, right? Hey, you know what? It is good that they're looking at ways to save the taxpayer money. I will criticize this, but I will also acknowledge that they can't even do that.
And I'll just add, I give him credit for this. He said, look, we're going to make mistakes. He said, we're going to make he said, we're not going to bat 1,000 here. We're going to make mistakes, and we should be held accountable to those mistakes. But the fraud and waste and corruption is so deep and so rampant, it's going to take time. He's not going through a ledger on a $1 million business. He's going through trillions of dollars here.
But if it's going to take a long time, say it's going to take a long time. Don't say we've already found this many $billion and then not prove it.
Would you rather wait him for 18 months and say, oh, and by the way, we didn't talk to you. We didn't tell you anything we were doing, but here's our final result. He's giving us a day-by-day analysis of what's happening. I don't know how much more transparent you can be.
Yeah, former Governor Sununu makes a good point. How much more transparent you could be? Do you want them to take a camera inside, show the Treasury payment system, like you want the entire world to see that? I'm not too sure, right? That's number one. Secondly, they need time to obviously put their report together. Right now, what they're doing is investigating. They are reviewing. They are notating. They are advising. But sooner or later, there will be an official report with the supporting documentation. You would think at a minimum politically, they would get behind that. But no. They have Elon derangement syndrome, and it's going to kill him. Now, here's an example of that derangement syndrome, because even though Elon Musk in the Oval Office in front of the entire world said, hey, you know what? We will get some things wrong, and you guys are more than welcome to correct this. I think that is a mature statement. I'm sure you would agree. But look at Jasmine Ghetto Crockett's reaction.
If you were trying to conduct audits and figure out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is, I don't know why you would go to some tech guy. In fact, it was only techies that were sitting there at inauguration. We didn't have auditors. I would welcome auditors to come in and do forensic audits. In fact, he sat there in the Oval Office yesterday.
Man, one of your fingernails fell off.
And he admitted that he was lying, and he was using his propaganda machine to do it when he said that we sent millions of dollars to Gaza for condoms. That was a lie. So let me tell you something.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
It's time for
the
us
gentlelady's
to do our
time
job
has expired.
and rein in this rogue actor known
The gentlelady's
as Elon
time
Musk.
has expired. I now recognize the
cut her
gentleman
mic.
from Missouri, Mr.
Cut her
Burleson.
mic. Cut her mic. Please.
Well, I can't say I'm shocked by how she feels about Elon Musk. And of course, hindsight 2020, yeah, I would let forensic auditors come in and look at everything. Sure you would, okay? We are not going to buy that whatsoever. Now, here's Scott Jennings this morning talking about transparency, that Elon Musk has been transparent. And the media has totally taken the bait on this entire narrative. No. They are not transparent. Again, do we need to remind them what happened over the past 4 years with Joe Biden in regards to transparency? I don't think so, but here's what Scott Jennings had to say.
Elon Musk, who doesn't need to do this, has, he could be doing anything else. He's got companies. He's the richest guy in the world.
Don't need to do this. It's not like
has decided to give his own time to a government of a country that he loves, that has given him all this opportunity. I take him at his word that he wants to be transparent, that he invites transparency. Obviously, everybody in the English-speaking world media is looking into him every single day. I would have no fear if I were him about Congress. He
hasn't been
asking questions and looking into it. I think they are.
The definition of it is he's not been on the front end of this so far. He's not been transparent. I mean, there may be.
They are making routine announcements about the things they are finding, and they are inviting questions about the things they are finding every single day.
But by definition, he's not being transparent. They're not providing data for the things that they say they have found evidence of. They just aren't.
The White House has provided.
You can make announcements, and he also did admit that he actually.
So you just don't believe it. I mean, they are providing information. You just choose not to believe it.
She absolutely doesn't believe it. It wouldn't matter if they did provide
these people are
documentation. Now they already have an X account that shows everything that they're doing. Again, you want to bring a camera into the actual building itself? I don't think we want that. But anyways, it wouldn't matter because their bias is so strong. They can't tell the actual difference between what is real and fake in their minds. Now, the one thing that he did highlight is that Congress will eventually catch up here, okay? 3 branches of government, they always seem to forget that. Right now, the executive branch is doing exactly what it was elected to do. And sooner or later, the judicial branch will need to catch up. That's just the way that it works. But they are so shook by how fast this is going that they are just overreacting on every little thing.
I don't think anyone should just believe that it's true. Do you think that people have taken kickbacks of tens of millions of dollars from USAID?
Here's what I think.
Do you believe that?
I think every year.
No, but don't accuse me of just like.
I'm just asking you. Do you believe that there is any level of fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse in the government?
No. That's not what you're asking me, and I'm going to ask the question. Don't accuse me of just like.
And so, if you believe that. Do you believe that it's possible that they are finding and producing information about it? Of course,
that wasn't my question. My question was, by definition, they're not being transparent. They can continue to be successful.
What do you want them to do?
Provide data. If they're providing data that they have found people, everyone would want to know if someone has received kickbacks to the tune of tens of millions of dollars.
I don't disagree with you. I love the idea of data. I love the announcements. I love them putting out regular reports of what they're doing.
They have not.
And I love the idea of Congress also bringing them up to report to Congress on what they're finding, because ultimately Congress needs to be engaged in this as well. I have no problem with that, and I don't think they do either, and that's what I heard in his press conference yesterday.
Now, I'm the type of person that once I continue to hear someone disagree, it just motivates me even more to go do research so I can debunk it. And if you just go onto their X account, they have provided screenshots of some of the systems that they've had access to showing that they have canceled contracts. Like, for example, this was dated February 7th. In the past 48 hours, HHS canceled 62 contracts worth $182 million. These contracts were initially for administrative expenses. None touched any healthcare programs. This included terminating a $168,000 contract for an Anthony Fauci exhibit at the NIH Museum. And here it is. I mean,
mass murderer, doctor needed a pardon. They ought to walk him out with his hands behind his back.
Is that good enough for you, CNN, or do you want to see more? And dated January 29th, here's another example, a screenshot of them canceling a $45 million scholarship. This is in regards to DEI in Burma. So again, I'm not too sure they've actually taken the time to go to the profile and actually look, but they're supposed to be the news. Now, the media isn't the only one that's been guilty at doing that. The Democratic Party has been as well. And when you have someone like a Governor Wes Moore who comes out and calls out the party for how they are so out of touch, you know you have problems. Take a look at this.
Rising star in the party, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, didn't mince words when it comes to the Democrats' biggest problem. Part of the reason some Democrats have struggled with messaging is because voters don't believe them. Strong messaging comes from having a core grasp of and a strong belief in what it is you're trying to do. Former Congressman Dean Phillips with us. Good to see you, sir, as always. I think the problem, yes, is some don't believe, but more importantly, and this just came across, in the past 7 days, MSNBC and CNN, extensions, I think, of Democratic talking points, have said that there is a threat, that we are in a constitutional crisis 200 times. When everything's a crisis, when everything's a hill to die on, when democracy's under the threat, I don't think anybody believes it anymore.
And I have to agree, Leland. And by the way, what this really is, most Americans can no longer relate, and the Democratic Party has seemed to abandon the overwhelming majority of Americans about what really matters. And I'm afraid that, as I've taken just the last 6 weeks as a former member of Congress, I got to tell you, Leland, I'm looking at this from the lens of a TV screen rather than being in the arena in Washington. And man, do I understand why people are so dismayed and disgusted.
Yeah.
And there's a dearth of leadership. I think Governor Moore was spot on. And until Democrats stop getting in front of microphones, spewing, and get out into America, especially rural America, and start listening, there is no future.
Well, Dean Phillips, we would love for them to continue to talk and not listen. Just keep doing that. It really just has to get to a point where they are tired of losing. I'm not tired of winning. I'm sure you're not tired of winning. And I would love for the Trump administration to keep up with this momentum. We definitely need Congress to catch up. They need to actually pass laws that support the executive orders that have come from President Trump. And that's when we know the nail is truly in the coffin.